We're talking about Barbara Arrindell, and she is the one of the founders of Best of Books. She's running the operation down there, doing a fantastic job. She's also the host of Big Issues, and she's doing a great job. She's been doing this for over a year. She just celebrated her 1 year anniversary, and we certainly salute her. And while I'm handing her a bouquet, Barbara, yesterday the word among observer was that Big Issues was very interesting, and that we all had to pay attention to what was being discussed on yesterday's Big Issues. I salute you on yesterday's Big Issues, and all the others as well. She's a writer. She makes a contribution every week to the Daily Observer. I'm sure many of you have followed her columns, and you're big fans of what she's been contributing. Barbara, welcome to Voice of the People.
Hi, Paul. Hi, Franz. Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yes. And you're getting good feedback on yesterday's Big Issues, aren't you?
I am. I mean, it just, I think, shows the interest and the worry that we all have for what's been happening. So, yes. I mean, there were lots and lots of comments that came in on the WhatsApp board while I was there live. But when I checked the Facebook, I also saw that, in fact, comments are still being placed there.
Yes.
And, quite a few people have looked at have watched and listened to the rebroadcast.
Indeed. Very good. Keep up the great work, Barbara.
Thank you.
Mm. Now, Wadadli Pen, this has been going on for, I believe, about 20 years here in Antigua and Barbuda. This year will be no exception. You're having the Wadadli Pen Writing Challenge 2024. And, of course, the entries should be Caribbean-inspired, any genre accepted. Submissions should be a maximum of 500 words. Stories, poems, graphic novels, all accepted. And open to writers in categories under 12. Another category 13 to 17, and the last category 18 and over, 18 plus. Tell us a little bit about this Wadadli Pen Writing Challenge.
Okay, so as you said, Paul, 20 years. In actual fact, that's exactly it. This is our 20th year. This writing challenge was started by Joanne C. Hillhouse, author in Antigua and Barbuda, and she started the challenge because she recognized there was a gap. And there was a need, there was something missing. And so she decided to fill that gap until others would do similar things to help our young people and our not so young people as well. So the writing challenge started off as a youth writing challenge, but so many adults were cussing and quarreling and saying nobody gives them a chance to write that it has now become a writing challenge for everyone, thus the 18 plus category that you mentioned. The idea is simply to give people an opportunity to create their own work. And what we've seen over the years is we've seen people who have come, who have created, who have moved on to write other things as well, So we are happy, absolutely happy to have many people taking part in this challenge and being interested in it. The idea is that just write, very simply just write. So there's no theme this year, and most of the time we don't have a theme. We want people to use their imagination and come up with the most amazing stories. Let your imagination run wild. There are no limits to stop your creativity. And as a result of that, we want people then to submit these pieces of writing to us. The big change this year is that everything is being done electronically. We've created a form that's online, and so you can no longer just send your thing in by email. You can no longer just drop it off the way we did in the beginning at the Best of Books. Those will simply not be accepted. Everything is done through the electronic form. And so to get the link to that form, people have to have access to the flyer. And we've been circulating it, and we hope that at some point maybe the Daily Observer will give us something spot that link there to go. Someone may ask if we're trying to make growth. No, actually, make it easier.
Barbara, could you stay stationary, please? Stay in one position. You're
Yes,
coming
I
in
am.
and out. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, great. So the idea is that we want people to utilize this form. You know, if you are taking part in competitions, and we want more vegans to do that, then you're going to need to accustom to this submitting work. And so we are now preparing our people to be everywhere and to be involved in everything. So using this form is the only way to submit internationally, and we're making it the only way to submit to this particular competition, the Wadadli Pen Challenge.
No,
So as you mentioned, go ahead, sorry.
Barbara, in terms of encouragement for the young people, you were encouraged as a youngster in Christ the King, or maybe even before Christ the King. I believe you hadn't reached 10 yet, but you were encouraged to write. Speak to how important it is for us, the adults, to encourage the youngsters to put pen to paper.
Well, Christ the King was the primary school at that point was Christ the King. And so I remember being in grade 6, and at that point, Christ the King had what was referred to as, I can't remember what it was, but basically, one day a week you had these extracurricular activities, and everyone had to be involved in something. But they also allowed grade 6 students sometimes to get involved in a small way because they knew you were then coming into the forms. And someone reached out to me and encouraged me to join the Jacks, which was a joint newspaper, St. Joseph's Academy and Christ the King. And I was to be part of the team to help to collect some articles from maybe some of the younger people. And it was an extraordinary challenge. It was some of the fourth and fifth form girls and trying to figure out, why am I here? But it spoke to somebody at some point, seeing that I was interested, I suppose, and by exposing me to more things, they perhaps allowed me to move in a direction that brought me to where I am now.
Yes.
So,
the encouragement's important.
Very, very important. But I mean, Paul, because you outed me, I think you have a similar story because we shared our story together. Tell us about what happened with you at Antigua Grammar School.
Well, I was 11 years old, and they used to have a competition called a creative writing competition, and you would write a poem or a story, and then you go to Princess Elizabeth Hall, all shined up, and your hair all cut, and you would read your poem or read your story. And Miss Iselin Richards, bless her heart, she encouraged all the students in the class to write a story or a poem in the English class, and she chose mine. For some reason, I thought, in hindsight, I look back at it, and as an adult, it's a child's story. But she thought there was merit in it, and they chose me, and then they put the story in Grammaticus. And I'll tell you something, Barbara. The other day I was in touch with Karina Edwards. You know Malcolm one of Malcolm Edwards' daughters. And she has a copy of that Grammaticus. It was a magazine published by the grammar school. And there was my story in it. I couldn't believe it. And this was in 1972, 73, somewhere around there. And so, again, that's because Mrs. Iselin Richards, the English teacher at the time, encouraged me. She saw something in me that I had some kind of talent maybe, and she encouraged it and she nurtured it. And much like you, by the way, Barbara, they told me to join the editorial committee of Grammaticus. No, I didn't know what. I was with Kevin Magidson and Leslie Magidson and Charlotte Omard and all these big Stafford Lewis and so on, and Eloy De Freitas, and they were having a big editorial meeting, and I didn't know what was going on. I was a little boy. But they too saw something in me, and they nurtured it and encouraged it, and look at what happened. I'm still
Yeah, there
doing
you
this
go.
so many
There you
years
go.
later, eh?
And I think what this speaks to now, I think our reason for sharing this really is that we want teachers to encourage their students to take part in the Wadadli Pen Challenge.
Welcome back to Voice of the People on Observer Radio 91.1 FM. Paul and the fans, we're in the studio, and we're so very happy to have Barbara Arrindell, she of Best of Books, she of The Big Issues, right here on Observer Radio, sharing with us today. And we're talking about the Wadadli Pen Writing Challenge 2024. Barbara.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah, thanks for rejoining us. Barbara, D. Giselle Isaac, she just sent me a WhatsApp, and she said, Paul, that's where my journey began as well. That was my first step in my writing journey. I competed at the PE Hall as well, and her first work was published in Young Antiguans Write. And look, she's still writing today, one of our great contributors here in Voice of the People, still one of our better writers here in Antigua and Barbuda. But she got the first push as a youngster at the Christ the King High School, competing in the creative writing competition. Now, Barbara, while we're talking about that, oh, by the way, I just remember what the story was that I wrote, Barbara. It was set in Africa, and this speaks to my indoctrination and my radicalization. After I got to grammar school, my whole view of the world changed. And I realized that we were under the thumb of our colonial masters, and so on and so forth. So I wrote a story, and tell me if this doesn't ring a bell. My story was that there was an eclipse in a village in Africa, a village rich with diamonds, gold, and aluminum, and all sorts of things. And there was an eclipse, and the people of Africa got scared, and the white people went to them and said, oh, the world is ending, you need to pray, go and pray. And while the Africans were praying, it's a childish story, okay, folks? While the Africans were praying, the colonists stole all their gold and diamonds and minerals. I mean, but that was the story. I look back at it and I said, well, it was a kid's story, eh?
But the fact is that it may be something that you made up, but it is in fact the reality of many colonies.
Which we're experiencing right now.
Well, exactly. It's the experience of what we thought of as colonies, and we thought that after colonialism, we would no longer be experiencing that. We didn't think we would experience it from within.
Yeah.
But that's
and they're now stealing our land, our great... They're now stealing...
You're totally correct, Paul. You're totally correct. I mean, you say they are stealing, but I have to ask you, if it's a they stealing or somehow we are facilitating, and we, not necessarily you and I, but we facilitating the theft of our own property. But
yes.
Again, that may be a whole other story itself, apart from Wadadli Pen, isn't it?
Indeed. Now, Barbara, to the best of your knowledge, and D. Giselle, she's aware, she's listening, when we grew up, there were maybe about 5 or 6 books published by Antiguans. That was my memory. You had a lot coming out of Jamaica, Andrew Sawkey. You had a lot of books coming out of Trinidad, Barbados. But my memory is that we didn't have a lot of Antiguan writers, except for maybe Novell Richards and a few others. But you're seeing a big difference now. Almost every so often an Antiguan author is published, eh?
Look, I'm going to a meeting at 3:00 this afternoon for a very prominent Antiguan who's written his autobiography. I'm going to go and sit with him to see how we're going to work out various things. I am waiting for some books to come in, I believe from Anguilla, for their religious children's workbooks, which I should have by Wednesday, by 2 Antiguans. Yes, we are writing, we are publishing, and our work is getting better and better. Some of it being self-published, some of it being recognized by quote-unquote international publishers. But even that no longer has the great, the stamp of approval that we once needed, because people are able to find people locally who can edit their work just as well as any editor anywhere else in the world can. So we're recognizing our own talent, and that this, in fact, is an industry. Might be a small one now, but the potential is there. There's no doubt about that one. And so hopefully, I mean, and we've seen people who have gone through the Wadadli Pen Challenge. I mean, when I say we're in our 20th year now, that means that you have some people who were writing at age 10, and they're now 30 or more. They were 16, they're now 36. So we have some people who were once young and are not so young anymore, and they have produced books. They have written. They may have e-books sitting on Amazon. There are Antiguan books being read by people all around the world. You know, we don't even know about them in some cases. So yes, and I do believe that challenges like the Wadadli Pen are as important for us now as were the challenges that you and Giselle and I, after both of you, would have taken part in as part of our development. So I really want to speak to the teachers. And even though the teachers may be in school right now, I know some of them listen in the staff room when there's nothing happening, and they're listening to nothing other than voice of the people, of course. So if you're in the staff room right now, even if the English literature teacher isn't there, you know, put this challenge out to your homeroom teachers. Have them write something. Allow these children, these young people, to do their thing. So don't really restrict them. And although before we took the break, I was saying that perhaps you can find a topic based on what's been happening in your classroom, or even what's been happening in the news. So what's happening in Antigua and Barbuda? You know, can you create a story based on the Barbuda situation as it is right now? Can you create a story based on what else is hot in the news at this point in time? France, tell us what's in the news right now.
They have plenty issues. But I want to say, there's no lack of issues around mental health, issues around the development of young people in Antigua and how it's respond. There are things related to tax issues that will affect generations to come. So there are many things. But Barbara, I wanted the opportunity to let you know. I run a youth program, Youth Lead, and without me knowing, I don't produce the show Youthology. But one of the young men who are part of the program said in the section that we call What's on Your Mind on Friday that he was looking forward to participating in the writing challenge that you had coming up. And one of the things that I immediately said, we meet once a week on a Thursday, is that I would further incentivize the young people who are part of that program. They're probably about 13, 14 of them now, to see how many of them could participate, because I really do believe that we have to continue to create avenues of this kind to help young people to learn to have a voice and to express the issues that challenge them or face them on a daily basis. And so I'm making a commitment to encourage those around me in my program and those that they may know to participate in this challenge here, because, you know, all of our young people are brilliant, and I was being explained that there could be art that is included in this challenge, so I'm looking forward to them participating.
Fantastic, Francis. So I say to you, thank you. And what we need is everyone like you. You know, everybody may be thinking, well, I only have a group of 5 children, or 10, or 13, or 20, or a class of 100. It doesn't matter. Once you challenge them, because that's what we're doing, it's a challenge. We're challenging you to write something. Once you challenge the children around you, maybe they all won't step up to the challenge. It may not be of interest to all of them, but at least let them know that it's something that they can be involved with. So many people have said to me that through challenges like this, they have recognized their own talents and their own ability. You also have people who use these sort of challenges to get their feelings down on paper. Yep. It becomes almost a therapeutic activity for them. And once they get started, they realize that they become calmer, they become a better citizen, because they've learned to express themselves in one way or another. And so, yes, you might be wanting to speak about the issues, but you may want to get away from the issues and just talk about something totally out there. You know, you may have heard that your mother or your father is going off to Ghana with a group at the end of the year, and you want to do some research and write a story in Ghana, and maybe somebody from Antigua going there, or vice versa. So the sky is the limit, and the the options are there. Often our children are encouraged to write the stories about the waving palm trees and the white sandy beaches, because sometimes teachers think that when we say write something Caribbean, it has to be about that. But I want to remind people that we're also talking about Caribbean stories that talk about the stray dogs outside of the building that you're at right now. Maybe speak from the voice of that stray dog. Maybe speak from the voice of the monkey who found himself somewhere up there in Bridgetown all by himself, trying to figure out why do him here. People come from St. Kitts or wherever they come from, you know what I mean?
Right.
So,
And Barbara, can I also add, and I don't know if this helps, but Antigua has a lot of churches. I would propose hundreds of churches. It would be so interesting to get different denominations to have the children of their church write stories and other entries that they can use as a body and submit those even from a denomination or religious or spiritual perspective, to encourage the children of the various congregations to write, because that has a benefit for the churches themselves, and indeed may spark something within the child that is participating in the challenge that you're proposing.
Definitely. I mean, every group, every I would love to see one day that we have 1,000 entries, rather than, our numbers are slowly but surely climbing, but I'm particularly interested in the young people taking part. Yes, the older people, and the competition is open to them. They have their own category, and that's fantastic because we want everyone to have the opportunity. But my interest has always been and will remain with the people who are coming up and who are going to take over this country from us, and I want them to be better at it than we have been. And so I want them to become better thinkers and better able to communicate. So yes, every church group, I have a group of young people that I work with through the church that I'm affiliated with. And this Sunday we had a young, I think she's about 12, and she delivered a sermon in church, and people were wondering, she write that? And I had to say to them, yeah, I went through like an editor, but not in terms of changing anything that she had written. And the challenge that she put out there to the adults in the congregation might have made some of them a little uncomfortable, and they're wondering, you're really sure the 12-year-old said that? Yes. They have their thoughts and they have their opinions, and they're watching all of us, right?
Indeed.
And so we need to give them opportunities to share their thoughts with us, because if we don't, then we don't know what they're thinking until sometimes it's too late, because they've used avenues which aren't necessarily great for them to express themselves. So, yeah, your idea of the various denominations, the various church groups, the youth groups that have no affiliation whatsoever with the church, you too. Everybody get involved. Challenge the children around. And you know what? Start off by saying, I'm writing too, because children will follow the lead of the adults around them. So youth leaders, you let them know that you're submitting something. The limit is 500 words, but that does not mean you have to get up there. So you can submit something that's 50 words. If your 6-year-old can write a short story of 50 words, and with your help, let it happen. Just get them started. Get them putting something down on paper.
Yeah, Barbara, stick a pin in it there. We're going to take a quick break for the top of the hour. We'll be back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Voice of the People on Observer Radio 91.1 FM. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Paul and friends. We're in the studio. We're so happy that Barbara Arrindell has taken the time out to join us by telephone. Now, Barbara, we're going to tie a bow around the discussion, but what about book fairs? When I came home first, there was a great book fair up at near the public library. I really, really enjoyed it, and I was selling my mother's book, but I also went around to the various booksellers and perused the offerings and picked up a couple of books myself. But what struck me, and remember I was only home a couple of months, was that so many Antiguan authors, so many writers from Antigua, and I can imagine many of them had a start similar to ours. They all have a story of where their journey began, but I remember Doreen Omar, Dame Ann Edwards, her book hadn't been published yet. Patricia Tully, she's also a local author. Reverend Denise Smith Lewis, another local author. Ambassador Max Hurst, I picked up two of his books. Joanne Hillhouse, her work was there. Sir Norval Richards, Sir Selwyn Walters. Keith Lynn Smith, his book, To Shoot Hard Labor, was there as well. Sir Keith Lynn Smith. And other local authors, D. Giselle Isaac, Dr. Glenn Edwards, his book was there. Are these names familiar to you? You have them all in your store down there, don't you?
I have almost all of them, almost all of them in the store, and there's so many that have been added since. So Dotsy has written her book of poetry. We now have that on the shelf. There's Simon, who has written religious and inspirational books, and I mentioned about a book coming across from Anguilla. It will be an activity book that she's written. I'm not sure if she's written it in collaboration with her husband, Canon Reed Simon, but there are so many other things. You have Miss Christian, who's written a children's coloring book, I believe, or activity book, Children of the Soil.
Yeah.
There are so many things available now. I would just like us all to be supporting local. For the time that you would have, I think that was where I met you, Paul.
Yes, that's where we met first. And
Right?
forged a great friendship there that's still going on and still thriving and flourishing.
Books unite.
Indeed,
Books unite.
indeed.
Since then, Joanne would have written so many other books. She has recently, of course, published To Be a Cheetah. Before that, The Jungle Outside, two children's things. I know she's working on so many other things that we're all just waiting. It was a pleasure for me to be sitting in the Ministry of Education and hearing them speaking about having two of her books on the book list, at least in some of the schools, Musical Youth as well as The Boy from Willow Bend.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that we're going to have more books like that in the school system. And, of course, beyond. We want other things to be out there as well. We want the Big Cat series, which Joanne is a part of with The Jungle Outside. There are other books. There's a book, To Become a Calypsonian, by Dr. Desiree Collins, who is in the Ministry of Education. My book, Turtle Beach, is in that series as well, and there will be others coming out. It will be great to have those in the schools so that when we say to students now, right, this is a challenge, they can say, hey, if I get involved in these things, I can become someone who's published as well, because other Antiguans, I'm reading their work. I want someone to read my work when I'm a little bit older. So let's hopefully have the Ministry of Education, the Department of Culture, all of these organizations recognize that writing is a craft. It's part of our culture, and that it needs to be supported the same way that all of the other art forms, or not, I shouldn't say the same way, but it has to be recognized as an important part of our cultural landscape. And hopefully
even Crystal Clashing, she of Team Antigua Island Girls, she's written a book, hasn't she?
Yes, she has. She has.
And you have copies of it down there at Best of Books?
Yes, we should have copies here as well. Yes.
Very good.
So what we do, basically, Paul and Franz, is that once somebody has published a book, we are almost always willing to take a few copies.
Yes.
I mean, there are times when somebody comes and they want to take 50 copies because they're certain that everybody's going to buy them. It doesn't always work that way. So once or twice a person doesn't bring their work to us for whatever reason. And that's okay because it's your option. But once a person wants their book to be in the bookshop, we will always at least purchase outright a few copies. We place them on the shelf. Once you are doing your marketing and your promotion, then we will come back to you and we will get more from you. Books like Cooking Magic are just always here. Keith Smith's books, always having to call his grandson now to get more copies. And there's so many other books like that have just become staples. Joy Lawrence's work, always ticking over. So, yeah.
Very, very good. Actually, I just picked up a copy of Point, Joy Lawrence's book on the Point community. Such a fascinating read, I'll tell you. And say what you like. She does the research, eh? Mm-hmm. She does the research. A lot of historical material in her treatment of Point and the history of Point. Great stuff from Joy Lawrence. Barbara, tell the folks what's the deadline for the Wadadli Pen Writing Challenge, what date, the submission deadline, and of course, if you could share the online entry form information, the bit.ly/Wadadli Pen 2024. If you could.
Okay, great. So everything should be in by the 16th of February. So the form is open. Entries have started coming in, which is interesting and amazing for us. We're ready to pop the champagne. I think we already have 2 or 3 people who have submitted their work, and seldom do we have people sending things in early. It means that they were waiting and ready with their submissions. A fantastic experience for us.
Barbara, God bless them, because my style is to wait till the very last minute, so that when I submit it, it can't be changed. If I submit it too early, I'm going to keep changing something. Every time I think about it, I say, I don't like that word. I don't like that. And keep changing. So God bless those who are confident enough to submit early, and hopefully there'll be more early submissions as well, eh?
Right, so I'm speaking to people like you, and I'm reminding them that because the system's a little bit different, and because these forms sometimes, we're not always as confident about them, do it early. So think of the deadline, instead of being the 16th, think of it as being the 9th, a week earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just my suggestion. So that when you get onto the form and you have to copy and paste or upload a document or whatever you have to do, that you have a couple of days to play with just in case it doesn't work the way you want it to. Please don't wait until the day. Don't wait until that 11th hour. I'm guilty of having done that with international submissions, and sometimes it can kind of take a couple of years off your life when you see the clock ticking, because those things, when that midnight hour hits, they're closed, and so I want us to be looking at this in the same way. So everybody, submit early. Get a copy of the flyer. You contact any of us, we'll send it to you. But so many people have it now, and they are ready to pass it on to others as well. We're asking everybody who has received that flyer, just keep sharing it. Share it with your friends and tell them to pass it on to their children. So in addition to the teachers, parents, if you've seen it, then you've got to get your young ones writing, and you write as well, of course. So, that's the deadline, Paul, the 16th of February. The link, I think you just read it, so I will leave that with you, and I'm going to ask you and Franz if every now and again you can just remind people of that link and that this competition is in fact taking place. Theme, write out anything you want. We are celebrating our 20th year. We are looking for sponsors, donors. If you have a chocolate you want to donate as a gift, then send it to us, because the gifts are based on what you present. Financial donations will sometimes go towards ongoing training, because we often offer the top 10 or the most promising 20 a workshop with somebody who knows what they're doing and can help them to get even better, because it's about developing the craft and making sure that more and more Antiguans can see this not just as a hobby, but potentially as a part of their income and something that they do for whatever reason they choose to do it. So, we're hoping for lots and lots of people to take part in this competition for 2024.
Very good. All the best, Barbara. And, of course, we're looking forward to hearing and reading some of the submissions at the end of the judging and the awarding of prizes and all of that. And I know that these submissions will withstand the test of time, much like our work kind of did, huh?
Yeah, well, we hope so. At least it kept our spirit going, kept us writing. So that's what we want to do.
Indeed.
Franz and Paul, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Barbara, and have a great afternoon.